In our last video, we gave you an overview of Chinese history. In this video, we're going to be discussing social issues within China.
Believe it or not, one of China's biggest social issues is corruption. President Xi Jinping started an anti-corruption campaign. The campaign has received some criticism. Such criticism includes some people thinking that the president is using the campaign to get rid of his political rivals.
Even though there is criticism, the Chinese government takes its accusations, arrests, and punishment seriously. In fact, those found guilty of corruption are most commonly found guilty of bribery and abusing power. To prove how serious the campaign is, there's a documentary series called Always on the Road, which shows President Xi Jinping making his desire to wipe out political corruption clear.
The next social issue in China is leftover women. Leftover women or unmarried women are frequently stigmatized. The issue of leftover women has been made into a documentary-style 4-minute-long video. The video was made by Japanese beauty company SK2. The president of the company told BBC that the film brings light to the real-life issue of talented and brave Chinese women feeling pressure to get married before they turn 27 for fear of being labeled shengnu.
Shengnu, or leftover women, are women who fail to get married before or at the age of 27. The idea of leftover women arose due to the emphasis of the importance of marriage and motherhood in Chinese culture.
Another issue in China is the death penalty. A group that is part of Cornell Law School has reason to believe that there were at least 2,400 people executed in China in 2014. That would mean that there would be one execution for every 562,500 people. In China, not all death sentences are made public. However, the lack of publicity may come to be understood as we look at famous mess-ups. For instance, in 1996, a teen was found guilty of rape and murder of a woman within just a few months. 9 years later, the true perpetrator, a man by the name of Chao Chi-hong, confessed. His confession led to the review and media coverage of the teen's case. In the end, it was found that he was wrongly executed. As compensation, in 2014, 2 million won or $320,000 were given to the teen's parents.
Our talk of the death penalty in China doesn't end there. In fact, it's just the beginning. In 2015, it was found that most of the world's executions happened in China, Iran, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and America, with China being the world's highest executioner. To make matters worse, countries such as China, Bahrain, and North Korea don't always meet their fair trial standards, and have gotten confessions through torture or just poor treatment. Similarly, some of the people executed didn't fall under the most serious crimes list according to the regulations of international killing.
Don't worry, the next social issue isn't as sad. At the World Metropolis Mall in China, there have been 10 pink outlined parking spots made for certain people. If you haven't been able to guess who they're made for, I'll tell you. They were made for women. According to a manager at the mall, women were having a difficult time parking in the more narrow spots, so they create parking spots that are 30 centimeters wider than normal. These special parking spots seem a bit sexist, especially if you pair them with advice given by Beijing police to women last year. Part of the advice stated, "Don't wear high heels while driving. Make sure you release the handbrake before setting off. And don't panic if you suddenly realize you're going the wrong way." Although some people find the parking spots convenient, others understandably find them sexist. China isn't the only country to have created female-only parking spots. Earlier this month in Seoul, South Korea, parking spots just for women were made. These lady-only parking spots had better lighting and were closer to elevators. The main difference between the two countries' parking spots lie in the fact that South Korea seems to be more focused on safety while China seems more focused on stereotypes.
Our last social issue also involves color, or rather a vast array of colors. In other words, our last social issue focuses on being LGBT in China.
As of 1997, being LGBT is no longer considered a criminal act, and as of 2001, being LGBT is no longer considered a mental illness in China. Similarly, as of 2014, Chinese courts have ruled against therapy to cure people of their homosexuality. Despite this, therapies still occur in some regions, and there are still stigma towards LGBT people in Chinese culture. Along with stigma, LGBT individuals in China are not usually protected in a legal sense from hate crimes or discrimination. Such discrimination may be due in part to the pressure put on young people to get married to someone of the opposite sex.
Don't worry, there may be some hope yet. Shanghai has been able to hold pride festivals and even inspire other cities to hold their own. Just as a side note, when I say allowed, I mean local officials failed to show opposition or support. Or in other words, they were indifferent. Along with the pride festivals, big cities tend to have a lot of gay venues. However, places for lesbians and queer minorities are rare, even in more open places such as Shanghai.
Speaking of rare, it seems as though it's rare for people to open up about their sexual or gender identity in China. In other words, only 5% of LGBT people in China are open about their sexual or gender identity in public places such as school or work. Luckily, many more, a surprising 17%, are open with their families.
Right now, you may be wondering, what should I really know about being LGBT in China? What are the most important facts? Well,
you should know that China is not close to legalizing same-sex marriage.
However, somewhat recently, Chinese courts have accepted attempted a same-sex marriage lawsuit, the first of its kind to be allowed in the court.
Lastly, you should know that China censors homosexual content. Homosexual content on television is often labeled as inappropriate sexual content and is grouped together with incest and polygamy.
Due to these social issues being so complicated, we cannot discuss them further without going over 5 minutes. You should really check our sources.
If you want to learn more about China, I suggest you subscribe to us. Subscribing is free and should notify you when we upload a video.
Stick around, you just might learn something.